sorry.
So is this how the chair looked 20 years ago?
No. Obviously the chair is much the same, but there was none of these banners. There used to be a little tag tied to the chair, and it said the Busby Stoop Chair. That was it. It wasn't even in this room. I'll show you where it was actually. We filmed in here. I couldn't even tell you what was at the front of the building. The chair was in this corner space here. There was no signage, there was no big banners. There was literally like, almost like, you know, you get a Victorian Christmas tag, you know what I mean, on a present. And that was like strapped on the arm of it. And it just said, I'm sure it just said Busby Stoop Chair or something. There was not this sort of big thing made out of it. So yeah, it was high up there. And these bags, actually in my original footage, these bags were on the wall still then. They look like they've suffered a bit in the years since. But if I remember rightly, Lynn was stood here and I was stood here. We were in front of the chair and Lynn had said something along the lines of she was drawn to the word sun. And I remember thinking, because we didn't explore that much, but we were due to go to Danity Hall after, but we didn't go to Danity Hall because we couldn't find it. And I'm wondering if there was a connection at the time, because Lynn said it's not the sunshine, it's sun. And I'm wondering, because we'd just been talking about Danity Hall, whether she was drawn to the word sun on each of these bags because Thomas Busby was supposedly Dan's son, the man he took the life of. But that was it. That was it years ago. There was not much, not like it is at the front. That's like a proper display now. But I remember even all them years ago, a Japanese film crew, I don't think they ended up filming here. I'm not aware of it. And they'd offered $1 million to buy the chair because they wanted to sit in it. And the First Museum said no, because it's about respecting benefactors' wishes, you know. And Tony Earnshaw, that was the landlord that gave the chair to the museum, as far as I'm aware, his wishes have been respected. From 2005 onward, as a teenage boy, I tried to use the internet, then in its video infancy, to release a free paranormal network via mediums including MySpace and YouTube. By 2008, I was leading a team of teenagers around England, creating episodes in pubs, hotels, homes, and everywhere and anywhere that would let us in. Parapsychology interested me, meaning I did not use mediums or clairvoyance. I was highly skeptical of this apparent ability. In a break from tradition, I set out to make a feature-length documentary on the Busby Stoop legend. For the first time, I invited a medium purely so I could say I had experienced that side of investigations. I was 16, ambitious, and set on my goal of finding evidence. Leaving my regular show behind, I set out with Lynn, a medium from Kettering, and 2 other female crew members to film an in-depth documentary of the Busby. It was shelved shortly after, the original master tapes missing until September of this year. This is nearly 2 decades in the making. It isn't a scream-heavy, bump-in-the-night documentary that has become the norm on television. Instead, my own experience led to fascinating historical insights and a singular moment of evidence that changed the trajectory of my work and ultimately, my belief systems. I remember well coming down this road and approaching what used to be the Busby Stoop and the excitement that we all felt. There was a certain character to the inn, and seeing the sign outside with the Busby Chair on it in all its weird colour hues, it instantly grabbed the attention, and I think that's what made this place so interesting. This is where the crew originally stayed when we investigated in 2008. It's the room to the far back of the building. It's changed quite a bit from what I remember. I don't even know if it looks like this room's used anymore. On this side of the building, there used to be a staircase, and I walked down it to introduce the documentary, and that's where they had the hanging noose. So when you'd come from this side of the road and you would see that noose in the staircase, it drew your attention instantly to the Busby Stoop Inn. I've arrived back in Thirsk. It's November 5th, 2024, and excitement is in the air. Tonight, fireworks will light the skies in nearby Northallerton. In a humble roadside inn, once stood a building, the Busby Stoop. The building was once adorned by a hanging noose outside and strange imagery of an oak chair on its signage, swinging hauntingly in the wind. At least, that's how it looked when I arrived 17 years ago. It was a fascinating traditional Yorkshire pub, famed for its stories of deceit, murder, and most notably, cursed furniture. How could a 17-year-old boy possibly resist delving into that kind of macabre? In 1702, then landlord Thomas Busby was led from his chair, from the inn, to be tried at York Assizes for the murder of his father-in-law Daniel. Daniel and his son-in-law Thomas had run a coin forgery business at the nearby Danety Hall. But differences had made them enemies, with Daniel threatening to return his daughter Elizabeth to Danety and away from her husband Thomas. At least this is one version of the tale. Countless variants exist. But one fact has been certain. A man named Daniel Arty existed, and his murderer Thomas Busby was indeed executed. After his execution, his body was dipped in pitch, hung from chains and displayed for all to see at the crossroads at Sandhutton. I'm in nearby Kirby Wisk, a place we didn't originally visit when we came here in 2008, not for lack of trying. We wanted to find Danety Hall back then to tell the story of Daniel. We believe today that we have found Danety Hall, even though just from the distance. Years ago when we finished in the museum, we told the cameras that we wanted to go and visit Danety Hall last to see if we could uncover some of the mystery behind Daniel and Thomas's story. Back in 2008, we didn't have a sat-nav, and we were using an AA road map. Suffice to say, we did not find Danety Hall, but I believe the building behind us to be Danety Hall. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it fits the story and it fits the location. Driving up near Danety Hall, or what we presume to be Danety Hall, is quite interesting because in the research I did over the years, the idea was that there was a long track to the building which would allow Daniel to see any passing traffic that was coming toward the building so that they could hide any illicit activities they were doing, which makes sense on the building we did look at, that it's almost like as a castle is, that you have, you know, that you can look out across it to check anyone that's incoming. So I think there's a good possibility that that is Danety Hall. It would certainly make sense for the way Daniel had structured the building so that they could continue to do the deeds they were doing at the time. I felt like I was on a bit of a mission to find Danety Hall because I didn't find it the first time round. And I've noticed on the signage that the museum's got now, here, and don't believe I'd heard this, I did hear that Danety Hall was a derivative from Dan's name, but they've actually said here that it was Dan Arty Hall, and now called Danety Hall. Now I had heard before that there'd been names like Dean Notty, Daniel Arty, it's been spelt Daniel Howarty. It's so many different sort of things around his name, and I guess that was probably because he was involved in the illegal coining business. But this story that's on the posters, this is the fairly famed version of the story. There are other versions of the story, but this is the one people generally talk about. What I failed to mention is that of a cursed oak chair, the one rumoured to have been cursed by Thomas as he was led from it by the authorities. Allegedly, Thomas warned that anyone who'd take a pew in his favourite chair would meet some untimely death thereafter. Sounds far-fetched, right? And I'd agree. Still, as a 17-year-old, self-proclaimed paranormal investigator, back then, There was just too much meat on this story's bone to be ignored. By the 20th century, the tale of Thomas's chair had become legend. Canadian airmen goading each other into the chair after having a swift pint, only never to return from war. Chimney sweeps murdered across the road by the inn, and a cleaner suffering a brain tumour diagnosis after her rest stop in the chair. It goes on. Roofers falling to their demise, delivery drivers crashing on the way home, and even allegedly a priest becoming prey to the cursed chair. For at least the last century, the Busby Stoop Chair has driven the locals into a frenzy, so much so that the landlord in 1978 had the chair removed and rehomed to the Thirsk Museum. Since, it has remained suspended on the wall, its benefactor's wishes being respected since, that no one again gets to sit in the chair. For Thirsk Museum, it has been their main attraction, bringing spooky fans from across the globe in to gawp at the otherwise unassuming piece of furniture. For the Busby Stoop Inn, however, time has not been kind. With the advent of drink driving laws, it is a wonder that this reclusive pub in the middle of nowhere survived as long as it did. I know in 2024, when I went by and saw all traces of the Busby removed, that I had to do something. This spurred me on to release my book. I felt the legend was in danger. I at the time had no idea that just months later I'd find the 8mm tapes, missing for 17 years in my parents' loft in the south of England. Tapes which I presumed would have been long recorded over back then. Thomas Busby has played a part in my life. A huge one. And like with all stories of the unexplained, you may not believe me. If it wasn't for the fact it was my story, I wouldn't believe it either. But I've returned to Thirsk to bring home the surviving footage of that weekend and to try and tell my story as best I can. As fireworks light the skies around Thirsk, I wonder if Thomas ever watched those bright colours light up the night sky. Did he ponder the deeds of Guy Fawkes just over 100 years before his own time? This bonfire night, I pondered this journey, the investigation, the voice, and the way Thomas seems to have always let me know he is still there. I'm here to tell you, he is. I feel him with me. Whenever I've let him in, he's shown me the way. So it was in 2008 when I first met Lynn. I was living in Burton Latimer in Northamptonshire, and my friend ran a spiritual sort of treatment kind of shop on the high street in the town. And I was invited along to meet the group, meet people. There were people there that were, I think it was something along the lines of developing sort of mediumistic abilities, for want of a better phrase. And I was highly skeptical of clairvoyancy, mediumship, and that's why I'd never used a medium before on my own show. And I listened to Lynn speak, and I really liked her. She was warm, personable, just seemed like a really nice lady, even though at that moment it was kind of in opposition what this group were doing to everything that I believed in, and held dear. Even to this day, I'm a fairly spur of the moment kind of person, and there was 16-year-old me in amongst all these adults, and I just went up to Lynn at the end of the group, and I said, you've heard about what I do on my show. I'm doing a one-off. I'm going to Yorkshire. I didn't tell her where I was going. And in my bolshy way, at 16 years old, I said, I've never used a clairvoyant, a medium. Will you come with me? I can't exactly remember how it went, but she clearly agreed. And it was the case of Lynn driving the direction of Yorkshire, and I'll tell you where we're going when we get there. And that's how it all began when I met Lynn.
Like I say, I feel like I might be drawing a picture of a picture, so it might be that I'm drawing a picture of something that we're going to find, someone we're going to find a picture of. Okay, well, tonight so far at the Busby Stoop, I've had quite a lot of different sensations, feelings of people around me. I feel as though we're going to have a very successful evening because already I'm feeling spirit coming very close to me.
Now we're in our sleeping quarters at the moment. It's a bedroom towards the back of the Busby Stoop, and we've got Lynn with us in the room on the chair, and we're also behind me on the bed here. And basically we're going to play it by ear now and see what we can come up with. Lynn's been having a few feelings throughout the day. You getting anything else for it at the minute then?
No, I'm still just aware that that I would like to go behind this room to the back of the building. I feel that's where we need to look. I also feel that at some point this may not have been a room. It doesn't feel like it's always been a room, so it may have been built on more recently. And I also still want water nearby. I still feel as I want to say there should be a water supply, either a well or a lake or a river or something close by. Also, since we've been in this room, I've been aware of children. And I feel as though there were 2 children. And at the moment, I'm feeling it might be a girl and a boy, but because they're not close to me at the moment, I'm going to wait and see if they come back to me as we move around the building. Okay.
Do you mind if I call out?
No, you can do what you... Yeah, no.
Okay then. If there are any ghosts, spirits, astral beings or orbs here with us today, in the Busby Stoop, in our surroundings, or in this room, could you please move towards us? Could you maybe come down and greet us in any way you wish to? Just to let us know you're here. I repeat, if there's anyone in the Busby Stoop, the surrounding area that we are in, or this room, then we summon you, we call you to come down here and to greet us if you wish to. We've come here to make contact with you. Anything else since I heard?
No, well, I did pick up something. I was aware of someone in some sort of battle wear. I don't know whether it's whether they were actually going to battle or whether they were just in some sort of chainmail vest. But I was just aware of that, just fleetingly, when you started to speak. But I haven't felt anyone join us in the room yet, I must admit.
Would it be worth me just calling to see if we can get into the atmosphere any of the names you gave me earlier?
You can try, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to call for a few people now that have been spotted in the area, in the Busby Stoop. You're more than welcome to come and join us in our atmosphere. Is there a Charles in the Busby Stoop? Charles, can you please come and talk to us? Charles, if you're there, please come and speak to us.
No, there's no energy moving in.
No.
No. Try one of the other names.
Thomas? Do we have a Thomas?
Thomas feels like he's very instrumental. He belongs here, like he lives here.
Do you think Thomas is going to make himself known tonight?
He may well do as we go round, but he feels like, I mean, his energy is here, and he feels
What, in this room?
In this room, but he feels to me like he lives here, like he belongs here. So he must have either spent time in this place, or there must be an event that he was part of that is very much ingrained in this building, because I feel like he belongs here.
What's the matter, Emma?
No, I just heard like a rattling or something.
That's what I heard. I was going to say it a minute ago, like a rattle.
And did you say Thomas was in the room?
Thomas came in the room, yeah. I can feel the energy of Thomas around me. I can't see him at the moment, but I can feel him.
Could you possibly try and address him?
Yeah, I'll try and address him. I feel as though he's very much to do with, because he's drawn me again to the name of the pub, which is Busby. So I don't know if he's Thomas Busby. I don't know if there is such a person, but he's certainly very ingrained in this place. He's part of it makes me feel like he's part of the bricks and mortars of this place. So he must have been very much here.
Why don't you address him and ask him? Why don't you call him as Thomas Busby and see if he responds to that title?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going on instinct here, but my instinct is that is what he's called, because that's what I've felt right from the beginning, as though there is, this man is something to do with this building.
Right.
Okay. He's either Thomas Busby or he's Thomas Stoop.
Right.
Because
shall I address him as Thomas Busby?
You can do, yeah.
Thomas Busby, if you're there, could you please let Lynn know? She can communicate with you. Could you let Lynn and her guides know you're there? If you are here, you can also communicate with us through tapping or sounds. Are you feeling anything as he said that?
Only just that he didn't live a very long life, so I would have said he passed maybe in his 50s or 40s. I don't feel as though he got to a great age before he passed into the spirit world.
Any reason?
I'm not sure at the moment. I'm not sure how he passed at the moment, or at the moment I'm feeling very sick. So whether he had some sort of illness or whether this sick feeling is to do with the way he passed, I'm not sure at the moment.
Right. And how do you feel about Thomas?
I'm not sure how I feel about him at the moment, to be honest. I will be perfectly honest. If I felt really uneasy about him, I'd say at the moment he's standing back as though he wants me to know that he's here, but he doesn't want to come too near me. Whether it's because he's worried about me or whether it's because I don't know, but he's standing back away from me. There seems to be something that he's not comfortable with. And it might be just that he's not ready to speak to us at the moment.
Okay. Is there anyone else I should try and call?
No, not at the moment. I think we need to move around the building, because I think that's when things are going to come in faster. There's a lot of movement in this room. There's a lot of energy moving around. I can see energy moving around. I know I'm just picking names out of air, but...
Did you hear that again?
Yeah. It's every time I start to speak, isn't it?
I keep imagining the bed.
It's almost like it's a very sort of, yeah, it is as if just say, you know, let me have my moment.
Yeah, we can hear that, yeah.
I think he wants to acknowledge that he's there.
Right, okay.
And he knows that you know he's there.
Yeah, I can see him still. But also, I'm wondering why he's staying back and not coming forward. He's staying over there.
Can you see him?
I can see him now, yeah.
Could you possibly give us any sort of, you know...
I feel that this is the biggish man that I saw when I first came into the pub, but it's not the same man that I drew.
Right.
It's quite a well-built gentleman.
I feel very cold now. Just my whole body's sort of going numb.
Wade?
This man must also have had some problem with his throat, because my constriction on my throat is very intense.
Well, all the time I've been sat here, I've been...
Yeah.
Wade?
That's it. There's something going on around the throat area. So I don't know whether that's to do with his method of passing or not at the moment, but I know that I'm aware of my throat.
Okay.
Right. I also oh, that's strange. I feel as though he had some infirmities. I feel as though he had some things wrong with him. He's not telling me exactly what it was, but I feel as though he might have been infirmed in some way. And I'm using the word infirmed, which I never use, so I don't know why I'm saying that, but it might have been a word he would use. Makes me feel like perhaps, you know, he wasn't altogether well.
Right.
Okay.
Is that mentally?
Mentally and physically.
Okay.
Okay. Mentally, particularly, feels like he's disassociated with the world. So, in other words, he would have had one set of rules, and perhaps everybody else would have had another. That doesn't make sense to me, but it might be making sense to you. I don't know. Okay, it's almost as though he didn't see things as being wrong when they were wrong.
Mm.
Okay.
Have you managed to pick up anything of his link with the Busby Stoop yet? Has he confirmed to you his second name yet?
I think he's Thomas Busby.
Right.
Okay, I think he's Thomas Busby. I don't think he's Thomas Stoop because that doesn't feel right. So I would say he's Thomas Busby.
Okay.
But I don't know. But I don't know. You know, I don't know if there is a Thomas Busby.
So has he come closer to you now? Is
Yeah,
he
he's
not so far
here.
back?
No, he's here.
Okay.
He'll talk.
Is he sat or is he stood?
No, he's stood.
He's stood.
Yeah, he's stood.
Is he looking?
I don't think he would sit with us.
Is he looking around the room or is he listening
No, he's listening
to you?
to us. He's listening. He's curious about us.
Okay.
But he's not actually saying very much.
Right.
He's watching a lot, and I feel that he would have done that a lot. I feel
Just watched over.
Yeah, watched over. I feel like he was quite a quiet man in his way, but he would have watched and taken everything in, and he would have known everything.
Mm.
I think he was quite a curious individual as well. So I think he would have been interested in almost anything, and maybe a little bit morbidly so. I don't know whether that makes any sense, but a little bit morbidly so. Could
you possibly ask where he lived?
It doesn't make me feel like he lived anywhere. It makes me feel like he was here.
Right.
So whether he lived here in the building or somewhere close by, I feel like he belongs here. He's not making me feel like he had a house, you know, in Great Yarmouth or anywhere like that. He feels like he belongs here.
So he was here grounded at the Busby Stoop?
Somewhere,
or whatever it may have been
whatever
back
it
then.
was then, yeah.
Do you get any sort of ideas of what he used to do? What did he used to do everyday life? What did, you know, or job, or what he was into?
No, I can't. I'm not picking that up at the moment. I'll tell you if I was, but I can't.
And
There was some metal work around him.
Right.
I don't know what that is. I'm just being shown now, and I don't think he's showing me. I still think I'm speaking to my guide. Somebody's shown me some metal work, as though they perhaps made, I don't know, swords or guns or something, or even a blacksmith. Somebody bending iron. Right. But I don't know whether that's here on this premises, because it feels like, again, we might have had somebody here.
Is there any other spirits in this building that he may be linked to, that his life may have been linked to? Someone he may know?
I think there's other spirits that we're going to come across tonight that are linked to him. I feel there was a group of men.
Right, and you seem to say that in a certain way as well. There seems to be a real way you projected that.
Okay, well, I don't know why, but
yeah,
you know, that's just the way it came over.
When we first started the investigation, we headed up to room 3 and 4 in the upstairs of the Busby Stoop. Room 3 had some stories that we'd heard from the research, but room 4 seemed the more active room. And that certainly came across in the information that Lynn was giving us.
Now we're about to go into room 3, so I'll just take Lynn as well. How are you feeling as you come in? You said you get very shaky.
Very shaky, not feeling too well.
Emma, how are you feeling at the moment?
No.
Yeah? You're not feeling anything?
No, I'm fine.
Right, so how do you feel in here?
I've come straight to the window. Somebody watched from here. Somebody watched from here. They watched over there. They watched over there.
Right.
So I don't know what they were watching, but they were watching.
We want to get off this floor a bit because it's creaky.
The lady that I have seen, the lady in the long dress that I've seen, that walks around with a candle, somebody will have already seen her, I know, connects with this corridor. Right. So she walks along this landing. So whoever's seen her has seen her out on this landing. And I felt her when I was out there. I haven't got a name for her, but I felt like she lived here for a long time.
I'm just going to stand up.
Felt like she was here for quite a long time. And I feel really uncomfortable in this room, and I want to look out of that window as though I'm watching something. So I don't know whether something happened outside the window over there that would make me want to watch. But as I'm watching, I'm not feeling very well, so I don't know what it was that happened out there. But I feel uncomfortable with it.
Have you got any sort of names gone through for you? Any sort of period of time? Well, what sort
The lady felt like she was perhaps Edwardian Victorian, or even slightly before that.
making this floor creak?
Okay, I feel like along one of these fitted bodice type dresses down to the floor. Not very flamboyant. She feels very simple. I think she might have worked here. She looks like she might be somebody who worked here. I don't know whether it's. You can try and call her in if you like, yeah.
If there is a lady out in the corridor, or a lady around us in this atmosphere, could you please come in? We'd like you to come in and make some contact with us. Come close to us. Move things in the room. Walk around as you have done. Show yourself as you've been seen before. Come near us. We're not going to hurt you. Anything happening there, Susan?
I'm just sensing that she's fearful.
She's fearful.
Yeah. I don't think she's fearful of us, but I think she would have been fearful when she was here.
Right.
I feel as though she would have been worried that she would be caught not doing her job, or worried about somebody catching her because she's fearful.
Can I just refer to Emma for some information?
Yeah, of course you can.
Right, and do we have anything on this lady? Have we got any reports of this lady?
We've had no reports of a lady at all.
No reports of the lady at all?
No, none at all.
Is there any reports concerning the corridor just outside this room?
There's only reports of walking
Okay.
up and down the corridor. That's been heard from downstairs, and when it was investigated, there was absolutely nobody here.
I feel this lady would have walked up and down the corridor.
Right.
Okay. Whether that was what they heard before or not, I've no idea. But what I felt was in that corridor, I felt that lady.
Right, what would you say that name is?
I feel as though I've got a Mary Ann or a Sarah Ann.
Okay.
I feel as though it's a two-part name. And she's very originally I saw a lady, the original lady I saw was better dressed. This lady is not well dressed. She's dressed as though she's working. Or no, not necessarily working, but much simpler clothes. So in other words,
not as fortunate.
yes, exactly. She's just, her clothes are drab. They're grey. They're not bright and pretty and lacy.
Her personality? How does she feel?
She feels very timid and very as though she'd just do as she was told. And I feel as though, you know, maybe 200 years ago.
They said we're talking sort of.
Maybe 17 something.
17 version, 18th century.
Yeah. There's no light. There's no lighting because she's carrying a candle.
Right.
So that's got to take us back 100 years, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel she was working here as it was a pub or an inn or a meeting place?
I'm not sure what. Yeah, she might have been working as yeah, she might have been serving or doing. She feels like she's back of house. She don't feel like she's down there slapping the pints out or anything. She feels like she's, you know, maybe looking after the rooms, taking water into the rooms.
Do you get any emotions from her?
Only fear. She's very, very timid, this girl.
She's
very fearful.
Controlled.
Yeah, she's very fearful of upsetting people or
Do you have anyone she could be fearful of?
Well, I still think it's connected with this man, but I don't know whether it's the right time frame for him.
Right, which man's this? You've picked up on two since we began the investigation.
Right, okay. I don't know. I'm feeling still.
For the cameras.
I feel as though the landlord, whoever the landlord is, she's frightened of the landlord. Okay. She's fearful of the landlord.
All right. Well, that basically is when we went after our meeting with Thomas Busby. Lynn picked up on someone whose name began with J, and we haven't said any more about this to Lynn. However, she felt that a lot of people would be frightened of this man. He was not a nice piece of work.
No, he wasn't. No, And I do feel like and I don't particularly want to pull him in. Like, I really would prefer not to call this Jack into my energy.
That's what you.
Jack.
That's what you decided to call him.
No, it just came out of my mouth.
Right. Well.
Sorry.
Emma,
it's Jack.
Can we get a record on that?
It just came straight out of my mouth. I didn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a pack of cards, and somebody's shuffling the cards, and they're dealing me a card, and it's a Jack, and it's black. So I don't know whether that would make any significance.
So are you very aware of this man? Does he want to come in?
No, well, I am aware of him.
And you're really...
And I really don't want him to come in.
Right.
Okay. I will pull him in later on if I have to.
Right.
But he doesn't feel nice to me. Okay.
And do you feel
I felt very sick. I think she's frightened of him.
Right.
But I'd want to go back further now.
Can you get an age for this woman? Is that possible?
She feels like she's maybe 28.
28?
Yeah. 28 years old. Yeah.
Okay, could I try and get some people in to do some things, possibly?
You can try, yeah.
Yep. All right. All the time when I'm doing this, could you possibly support me in
yeah,
your
of course I
mind?
will. Yeah.
Right, if there's anyone here, we are aware of some presents. We have now picked up on 3 presents within the Busby Stoop. If you are one of these
Did someone like knock it? Or that, like there was something knock?
Just felt like it just arrived
it felt like a scraping sound, like that sort of thing. Yeah. That's...
Oh, it's very, very cold here.
Does she feel threatened by us?
Not by us, no.
Right.
She's talking to me about how she felt when she was here, and I feel like she worked in this place when it was perhaps a coach house or an inn, and I feel like somebody was not nice to her.
Right.
And it may have been this Jack, it may not, but it may have been, because I get a very not a nice feeling with the man who was a Jack. So she's making me, she's gone very cold and tingly.
Do you mind if I ask, and I hope she wouldn't mind, can I ask you what she suffered under this person?
I think he beat her.
Right.
I do think he beat her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know whether there was any sexual abuse of any sort or not, but I feel there probably was.
We encountered a spirit in room 3, but the way Lynn was giving us the information, it appeared that the spirit was, or the energy was more residual than active. It seemed like Lynn was channeling energies that were rather than something that was actively inside the Busby Stoop or haunting the Busby Stoop, if you like. They seemed to be old residual feelings. There was another energy which certainly seemed like it could be more of an active spirit. Lynn did not want to pull that energy into her space.
We're now in the corridor outside room 3. We're just about to leave it. Lynn, how are you felt now coming out into the corridor?
Okay, but I was just checking there was no one else was specific that I was supposed to pick up in that room, and I don't feel there was anyone specifically connected with that room, but I feel as though I want to get into the next room because I feel as though there are specific sightings in the next room. Does that make sense? Look at these little pictures.
Yeah. This is room 4 we're about to enter now. If I sit back a bit.
Because there's a lot been seen in this room, hasn't there? I don't know whether you can check this or not, but I feel there's been a lot of spirit sighting in this room. A lot of movement, a lot of noise. I think we might actually get some noise if we manage to keep quiet enough. We might pick up some noise in here. At the moment, I can't feel any noise in particular.
Your last request was to be in pitch black.
Well, I wouldn't mind the curtains.
Emma, would you be able to draw that one and I'll draw it?
I just feel that sometimes the light from outside interferes with what we see in here. Right. So
can I just say before we begin, I don't feel comfortable with the bathroom door open.
Okay, well, do you want to shut it then?
Yeah, would that be alright?
So, would you be able to close the bathroom door?
I'm not liking this area.
No.
And I don't even want to put...
But I do think if we ask, we might get some phenomena in here.
Okay.
I'm with you on that corner. I'm not comfortable particularly
What,
with
with
that
the bathroom?
corner. Yeah. I don't
like it.
obviously the bathroom wasn't there at one stage.
I just don't like
Yeah.
it. I couldn't look in there.
I'm finding it difficult to be facing this way as well.
Would you like to move just a bit closer to them? Would you feel comfortable?
Would you like me to go into the bathroom?
Well, why don't you swap places with Emma for
Yeah,
now?
okay.
And then you're nearer to it.
No, I'm not
But
worried about
are
it,
you
so-
picking that up as well, Lynn? Because I hated it.
I don't like it, but I'm not frightened of it, so...
You see, I'm not even... Oh, the door opens enough to... What are you getting?
Okay, just very cold in here. I don't feel like I want to scream or anything, but I don't feel very comfortable in here. I feel like somebody could knock me off my feet in here, if that makes sense. I feel quite unsteady.
Would you like me to call?
Hold on. No, I don't really want to bring them in at the moment, because I don't... Let me just see if I'm comfortable with them first.
Is this an energy we've come across before?
No, I don't think so. No. But I'm not sure if it's an energy of a person or if it's the energy of the room, whether something happened in this room. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes the room itself or the building itself holds on to a memory. And because we're in this corner, I wonder whether something actually happened in the corner of this room in the past.
Yeah.
I feel a bit drunk and unstable on my feet, as though I don't know if I'm drunk or if I've been hit and I'm. Do you know when you're reeling from something? And
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you can see me moving, but I feel like I'm rocking on the spot. Does the camera pick that up from where you are?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
You're rocking.
You're
You're swaying.
I feel like I'm swaying and rocking. I feel very, very uncomfortable.
See, my head is giving me some, like, killer pains at the moment.
Yeah.
Are you alright, Lynn?
I just feel sick. It's alright. I'm coming out.
Do you want to shut the door, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't very nice. Oh. Something came very close then, and I'm not sure what it was, but it wasn't very nice. Oh.
Male, female?
Male. Very definitely male. Very
You see,
strong, very male.
this could be our...
Could be our man. Okay, could be our man.
Have we still got no Thomas in this area?
I know, Thomas is around still, but he's standing back. He's not moving in at the moment. I don't know if Jack worked for Thomas or worked with Thomas. Jack feels like he was somebody's heavy, like somebody's heavy. Do you know what I mean? There's no such thing as a heavy in those days, but he did the dirty.
Someone's dirty work.
He did some, yeah, you got it exactly.
Yeah.
He feels like he did somebody's dirty work. I've got pains in my what am I here? Kidneys. As I've been kicked. I feel like I've been made to. When I was retching, I felt.
Is it in this room or is this a feeling that could be anywhere?
No, this is in this bathroom. I feel like I'm retching. I feel like somebody's. You know when you get a heavy punch in the stomach and you just want to be sick? I really feel that's how I feel. I feel like I've been punched. You had the wind. Yeah. But I also still feel very sick. So whatever, and I feel achy in here, like somebody's kicked me in my back. So I feel like I'm feeling like somebody's attacked me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they didn't, but this is what I'm feeling from the spirit world. Somebody was attacked. Now I don't know if it was actually in this room or just in this building.
So were you saying that this room was part of a whole? It wasn't. The bathroom wasn't there. That wall wasn't put up. It was just a big room.
This was not here.
Right.
Was not here. And in fact, I feel this room might have even been bigger than this.
Right.
At one stage, because I don't know which end I want to go through.
That's room 3 if you go this way. The room we were just in.
No, it's not that way. Then it's probably this way.
This is a bathroom, a big bathroom.
Yeah, that feels like I want to go that way more. This room would have been bigger that way. We can check that, can't we? Here's some plans.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go that way more. And this bathroom definitely.
Would you like to move straight over? As you're getting the feeling, would you like to move straight over?
I would. Yeah.
Right.
Can we go into that?
Okay, can we just be quick as possible? Yeah, you can. I'll take you through.
Shall I turn it off?
No. Let's keep it on. We'll just go straight over there. Oof, I've got to turn my torch on. Really not. You know, I just don't like the bathroom. Are we going to grab the bag and the sketch pad? Is that right? Yeah, just shut that. That's fast.
Only really.
Right. Right. Basically, what Lynn's saying is she feels she's got to go through to the next room. She feels it could be part of what she's feeling in here. So we're going to go through to the next room. Yeah, we are. Just knock on, just to check no one's in. Right, no one's in. Come on through.
Sure.
You want to shut that window up? There's one at this one. Just so you don't get as much. Wait, do you want to come in and shut the door?
You're not
I don't.
Okay. It's part of the same room. So
Are you right to stay in? Do you want to wait outside?
Yeah.
Alright. We're going to have to. Is it right to shut the door up though? And you just
Yeah,
hold it
that's
for
fine. I
me?
don't understand it.
Okay, can you grab it quickly? Is that alright? Are you related to that room? You're right.
You're right in.
Somebody just made a noise in here. I mean a physical noise. If that's you, could you please do it again? Do it again, please. If you're here with us, please could you do so?
No, that was me. Sorry.
If you're here with us, could you please do something again? If there are any ghosts, spirits, astral beings or orbs, please give us a sign. Move the products.
Something's been tapping the bag, but not pushed it as much as it had done the first time.
Turn the taps on. Your energy must be able to do something more.
Come on, guys. Help us out here.
Hi, we're now back in our room. We felt we had to get away for a while, but some interesting stuff's been happening since we got back. First of all, I'd like to, you saw the pictures at the beginning of the episode, but I won't show you up close, but we have these two men from earlier. This was the first one Lynn drew. This is when we first arrived today, and this was the second one. Lynn, do you feel either of these have made themselves known yet?
No, I'm not sure.
No?
I'm not sure that they have. I'm not sure that we've had those energies in yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and Lynn has just drawn a new picture since we got back from upstairs. She's drawn this picture. Lynn, could you tell us more about this picture, what you may think it might be?
I'm not sure who it is at the moment, but I know it's a very strong energy. It could be Jack.
Right.
It could be Thomas, because although Thomas has been quite easy to talk to, I do feel that there's more to Thomas than.
What more feelings have you got?
I really feel that he's hiding behind his persona that he's showing us. I think there's more of a deeper individual behind there that's not as nice as he's coming across.
Right.
I think he's showing himself in a particular way to us for his own reasons.
And now let me just explain to the camera that Lynn, me and the two girls have just been outside, and while we've been outside, Lynn has done some writing. Now, before you tell us anything about this writing, why have you written some stuff on a piece of paper?
Only just because there were things coming into my head that I didn't want to forget and I wanted to mention to you.
Right.
So I just thought, well, while they're all popping into my head, I'll write them down, so that I don't go on to the next thing and lose them. Because you've got to remember that what's happening in my head is like a ticker tape. So it's like bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that, and it's very easy to miss something. It's very easy to be told something that's very relevant, but miss it because you're on to the next thing, or you've taken your mind away from that and put it somewhere else.
So maybe could you share with us what you've written?
Well, it's more about, I got a date to start with, which was April the 2nd, and I was asking for a year, but I haven't been given the year to go with it yet. But I feel like that there's a significance to April the 2nd. What happened was I was drawn to April the 1st to start with, and then I was taken over to the 2nd, so I feel it is actually the 2nd that's relevant. I know I said before that I thought there was water out there. I really do strongly feel like there's a well out there. There's somewhere they got water from out there. So at the back where we came in and parked by those barns, whether it's covered up, whether it's under the house, I don't know, but I feel there's a well. I feel those back buildings behind the not the facade of the pub, but the buildings behind are the most original. They're the oldest of the buildings. And I feel like they had no windows. Originally, they had no windows. No glass, almost nothing. There may have been a space for light, but there was very little window. And I also feel like some of these windows in this part of the building are not, they weren't here originally, right? Yeah, large doorway. There must have been a large doorway towards the side where we came into the car park or to the back. I really do feel like I want to bring people in through the side of the building and not through the front. Okay. I've got here the barns were used extensively. I feel like those barns at the back there were more used than the front was. And I think this front bit has been put on more recently. The back bit's the oldest. Okay. And I felt like I was being told this by Thomas again. I felt like I was being fed this by Thomas. Yeah. So then, really interestingly, I wrote Thomas, and I thought I was going to write murderer, and I wrote murdered.
Right.
So that must have some significance. He must have either been murdered at the end of his life, or he murdered, he killed. So I can go back to Thomas in a minute because I don't feel worried about him. I don't particularly want to connect him with Jack. There is some relevance to a shotgun here. Now, maybe with the things you know about, I don't feel it's to do with Thomas. I don't feel they had shotguns when he was around. I feel as though we've got to come more this way, but I feel somebody had an incident with a shotgun, was shot, because I could feel the impact. I don't know whether there's anything to do with highwaymen around here, but I just felt a strong, like the old I don't even know if we had highwaymen in England, but highwaymen, on horses, robbing. So, and I've got 6 men involved in that, and I've got meetings and a coaching house again. So I felt like that happened. Something was planned from here, and that happened from here. The lady on the landing, Mary Ann, all I know about her, and the only reason she came was because she walks the hallways, and she worked here, and that she was fearful. I didn't feel any more relevance to the whole story than that. I feel she was lived in fear of a man. It may have been Jack. It may not have been Jack. It may have been someone else. Okay. And I still feel there's some relevance to children in this house. And I feel I want 2 children, and I feel there's a connection to the lake, which I know you've said is around here somewhere, but I feel there's a connection to the lake with the house. It came straight after the boy and girl, but it may not be connected to the boy and girl. Okay. And that was it basically. I just was jotting down some things to say. Well, you can see how disjointedly it comes sometimes. It just comes in little bits, and I just wanted to get it down. Do you know what I mean? So, but then of course I've stopped halfway through, so I may have got some more if I'd.
Okay, thank you then. Alright, so basically now you see that Lynn's obviously picking up on some more stuff. We'll be back in some more rooms soon. But the crew are having a lot of interesting feelings tonight as well. And the crew have also discussed, it's almost like most of the crew have latched on to sort of one of the people Lynn has been talking about. They feel either close or they feel strongly because of one of the people they've been feeling around them. So we'll talk more about that when it comes to it.
Quite interesting here. I don't believe this was here when I first came. Nothing was here apart from the chair itself. This is an extract from the History of York and the North Riding, page 537 from 1859. and it talks of a son-in-law, Busby, murdering the father Daniel, being gibbeted across from the Busby Stoop, executed in 1702. And then interestingly, just because we've been on the hunt of the hall, the note at the bottom says, the farmhouse mentioned in the above extract is still in existence and is shown on the Ordnance Survey map. The name is spelt Danity Hall. Kirby Wisk is 2.5 miles north of Busby Stoop on the main road to Northallerton. Which this is a fantastic document. I'm assuming the page has been taken from the original handwritten copy of the history of York and the North Riding. It's really fantastic to see this, and obviously confirms the involvement of Danity Hall. You know, the murder and the subsequent execution after Thomas was tried at York Assizes, that's all fact. We can follow that back, that's factual. This gives credence to Danity Hall's involvement in the story, and all we're now left with, and what my original documentary explored, was the very chair itself. We moved into the bar area, which was setting the stage for the most important piece of paranormal phenomena that I've been involved in, and certainly for the girls on the crew, was a trajectory changing moment, I think, in terms of paranormal research. And the idea was that we were going to, Lynn was going to do some writing, not automatic writing, but she was receiving messages, she was hearing things, and she was going to write down the answers that she was getting to the questions that I was proposing to Spirit. We first encountered a spirit called Jason, and he seemed like a troubled spirit, and he seemed to weave in and out of tangents. He talked about children, he talked about his family, he did talk about the possibility that he did know Thomas. We asked him to step aside eventually. Lynn was aware that Thomas's energy had re-entered the atmosphere, and he hadn't spoke to us at this point in the evening. He'd been standing back. Lynn had been aware of him since the time we'd arrived, but he'd been standing back. Lynn then began doing the writing, recording down the messages on paper that she was receiving from her guides and from Spirit.
Right, now we've joined the investigation again. We're now in the main bar area of the Busby Stoop. Lynn, are you picking anything up as we come into this atmosphere?
Not right this moment, but this is the point at which I first felt the name Thomas. As we
When we first arrived
today.
today.
When I first arrived
And you
today.
said instantly as you came in the door.
as I came in the door, I just felt the name Thomas, which we've since discovered is linked with the
Busby.
So that's great. So what I was hoping was perhaps we could pull Thomas back in here, but also we've discussed that you have a bond yourself with this energy.
Yeah.
You felt him around you and you feel quite comfortable. So how about if you invite him in and I'll see what I can pick up from him again. You know, I feel like Thomas. I'm going to just again repeat. I don't know whether I'm repeating myself or not, but I feel like Thomas is very much ingrained with this place.
I'm just sorry to interrupt you. Literally.
Right.
You see where this is over there?
Yeah.
I'm sure we should see a head bob.
Okay.
You know, as if you're walking, you just pop up and then you go back down.
I keep like, I don't know if you noticed, but I keep glancing that way because
It was a bolt head. Just like a bolt head. You saw it bob over that cash register like that.
Fine. All right. Well, relax.
No, I know my heart's jumping actually because I've been seeing similar things and I've just tried to stay back from the camera.
It's just movement. Okay. Well, nothing's here to harm us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything only means us good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to worry about what's around. We're just going to try and communicate as much as possible with what's here. And we're not going to panic. We're not going to panic. We're just going to try and work with whatever anybody comes into. Okay, that's made everybody jump as well. Okay.
It was just a battery pack.
I want to say that we talked about Thomas being very much part of this building, but I want to say he lives somewhere else, and I want to say he has a big family, but also he lost children to the spirit world. Now, I don't know how many children he's got. Come on, Thomas, how many? Quite a lot of children, or big family around him. If it's not children, it's an extended family, because there feels like there's a lot of family around him. I still keep getting drawn back to this metalwork, so I don't know, but I'm drawn back to the metalwork. So whether he had a factory that made something, or whether I really don't know, but I'm just drawn back to metalwork.
We could ask him why there's a chair on this Busby signpost.
You could?
Yeah. Thomas, would you be able to tell Lynn? Would you be able to tell Lynn's guides and tell Lynn why they use a chair on the signpost of the Busby Stoop? Right, what do you put down?
Cursed? What's cursed?
It don't make sense.
Cursed. C-U-R-S-E-D, cursed.
Cursed. Yes. Were you about to get more?
I don't know, let me just, if you want to just carry on talking to me.
Oh, thank you for your answer. Thank you very much for this, Thomas. Would you be able to tell us more about this, possibly? We're just quite interested because, you know, it's on the signpost and it's not the average sort of image that's used on a public house or inn. So we're just quite interested as to why it's there. The chair was cursed, do not sit in the chair. But who said that? Thomas said that.
Said that.
That doesn't make an awful lot of sense then. Right, could you ask him whatever happened to the chair? No, I will actually. Thomas, what happened to the chair? What happened to the chair? Why is it not here? What happened to it? Thomas, could you tell Lynn and our spiritual guide what happened to the chair? It's high up. Could you be more specific, please, Thomas? You can't sit in it now. Do you know the exact location of the chair? Do you know where it's kept now? First. You've written it again. Why are you writing it?
Because he just said it again, first.
I sat in it. I made my decisions in it first. What, Lynn, we've got to get to the bottom of this. Does first represent Thirsk?
Unless it's something that Thirsk was called years ago, I don't know. First?
No, wait. I made my decisions in it first.
Right.
First chair. I made my decisions in
Maybe
it.
first chair was what he called it.
Did you call the chair the first chair? Was it called the first chair? There was only one.
So yeah.
There was only one chair. The first chair. Right, he's written Thirsk.
Thirsk.
He's written Thirsk. Thirsk chair. Why have you written that then? Why have you written Thirsk chair? Thirsk is the town we are in at the moment.
Because I'm thinking I'm hearing first.
You see, that's what I linked, wasn't it? That's what I said.
And it's actually Thirsk that I'm hearing.
So let's read this
So
back.
if we change the first to Thirsk.
Cursed. The chair was. This is what we've had from this conversation. The chair was cursed. Do not sit in the chair. It's high up. You can't sit in it now. Thirsk chair. Thirsk. No, it was gifted to me. I sat in it. Thirsk chair. I made my decisions in it. Thirsk. There was only one chair. The Thirsk chair. Thirsk chair. Yeah, but does the chair still exist today? Is it still somewhere? Yes. Is it not far from here? Yes. 2 yeses. We asked, does it still exist? Is it not far from here? Is it in the Thirsk Museum? Do you know that it's been taken to the Thirsk Museum? Yes. And I now need Thomas to tell me why the curse was. Because I know the folklore. Thomas, could you tell me why the chair was originally meant to be cursed? Because I've heard loads of stories, but I kind of wanted the truth, and it's not fair without having the say of you. Sorry! What? Calm down. What? Take the camera. What's the matter? What the hell's going on? Shit. Lynn, can you try and close something off here for a while? Sorry! What? Calm down. What? Take the camera. What's the matter? What the hell's going on? Shit. Lynn, can you try and close something off here for a while?
Turn the camera off.
Okay. Right, Zoe and Emma, I've just decided to talk to you as a pair because we have caught the noise on camera, and obviously me and Lynn didn't hear it at the time because we were in conversation with Thomas Busby. But can you tell us what it was like? What was going on?
It was just sort of a second of what was that, and then sort of panic because it was so loud. It was so. I don't know what it was for you because it was right in your ear, but it was really loud for me. It was literally like in Liv's ear, just that word. But I can't even say.
You can tell it's right by the camera as well.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that it got picked up on camera. It's not just us reacting to nothing, no evidence. But it took me a while to register what had actually happened.
Well, me and Lynn are going to talk about the girls' experience because we didn't actually hear it until we heard it back on the camera, but it's none of our voices and it's really chilling.
Yeah, very. First thing we knew about it really was when the two girls launched themselves at us screaming, and we weren't aware of the voice at the time. However, I had just written down the word "I" on the pad, and that was the word that came out of the spirit person's mouth. So.
And it was also I just had stopped answering the question and I leaned over to Lynn. She put "I made," right? She put "I made," and I just leaned over to read it, and then the girls launched at us. And we thought.
Bless Emma, she shook. from head to toe. And that's a natural reaction when you hear something as close to you as that. You know, we've been asking all evening for phenomena. We've been asking for spirit world to show themselves to us. And of course, eventually, late at night, they do that. But when they do, we almost can't believe it, can we? We're like, oh, can't believe it. It's awful. You know, it makes you jump. But, you know, fabulous. And, fabulous, because they actually did talk to us, you know.
Throughout the evening, it was seen that when we first contacted Thomas Busby in our sleeping quarters, it would seem that what it was is I've said to Lynn all through the night, I felt I've had this connection with Thomas Busby. No one else here, I felt connected to Thomas Busby. And Lynn's been getting all the imagery and all the messages sent to her through her mind, and I've been asking all the questions as I'm, you know, I know the story quite well. I've researched it really, you know, and just the stuff that come out was absolutely amazing. Now, I've discussed with Lynn that it is stuff that could possibly be researched from websites.
So I understand, but I promise that I haven't done that.
And also, plus, you know, the other thing that makes us with the point now is if this wasn't Thomas Busby, then I don't know what that was, because it was none of our voices and it wasn't at the appropriate time, and it was too right near the camera, because the only person's voice it could be at a long stretch would be mine, and I was, the camera actually views me leant over your shoulder while the voice comes in right next to it. So to us, that is an amazing piece of footage and an audio of a voice. And we discussed that it maybe could be where the planes have crossed over, whereas he's been talking to Lynn in her mind and to her guides, but the planes have crossed over and his voice has been projected.
And that's why it came through so loudly as well, I would think.
Yeah.
You know.
But the conversation here is amazing, because what we also think is we don't feel we've made a faux here, because all the way through this conversation, the story has always said that Thomas Busby cursed the chair, so anyone that would sit in it would come to harm. But he has actually said to us here in big capitals, with lines underneath it, "Do not sit in the chair," implying that he did not want any of us to end up sitting in that chair, which is nice to know.
Which means, again, he meant us no harm.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
We're not in any danger.
He knows exactly where the chair is, and he knows, you know, exactly what's happened to it through the ages, and I just think possibly this is probably one of the best pieces of conversation and phenomena I've had, because every time I was asking something, Lynn was writing something down, and then that just put the cherry on the cake, really.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you had such a shock for us to put the cherry on the cake, but I do think it's excellent that the phenomena has happened and that we've actually got a voice on the tape, because that's, after all, what we've been asking for. So.
And that's what we also set out to do. So.
Yeah, so excellent. Just get a very thin layer of talcum powder on the table, so that if anyone puts anything near it, then they'll. Right, you take a snap of the. Have you got a digital?
Yes. Just for the camera's benefit, we've got our piece of original paper if they want to write us another message. Around it, we've got a thin layer of talcum powder. We'll be able to see if there's any movement or something's placed on it, or the book's moved, or someone's tried to write and it's moved, you know, or pick something up. So we'll come back to that later. We're just going to take a picture of it for our evidence, and we're going to go now for a break, and we're going to see if we can get anything when we come back.
It's difficult to change a skeptic's mind. And I know, because I've been that skeptic. And strangely enough, I've been skeptical since my time at the Busby. But there's a difference about my later skepticism to the one I experienced before we went there. And that was that every time I think about my skepticism and I challenge phenomena that I hear, see, investigate, I come back to one thing. And that's the voice audio captured at the Busby Stoop. It was completely life-changing in the research that we'd done up until that point. And we were very young, and we were very excited by what we had. As I said earlier, there were 3 females with me. I was the only male. I had the key to the building, and no one else was in that building. I locked the building up at the end of the night. Even if there had been anyone else in the building, it's the way in which that sound is recorded. This is a camera, and exactly the same model as the camera I was using on my poor man's paranormal show in 2008. These are Sony camcorders, handy cams, just home video cameras, but they had the great ability to have 0 lux night vision. This is why we used them. They were budget and affordable. If Emma was across the table, she would be recording like this, and I was sat the opposite side of the table. So me and Lynn are in frame, as you saw from the clip. There was no boom mics being used. There was no additional recording material. The sound is caught here. This is just a front microphone, a built-in microphone, a very, very weak microphone. And it's at the front here. So Emma's here, and I believe she says that she'd heard something in her ear. That's more than likely that she may have felt that it was directly in her ear. But for this very sensitive microphone to pick something up, I would think the noise would be coming from around here, from the front. It's not a great microphone. It was standard market, £250 camera, and that's the kind of setup of it. That's what we were using. But the sound's recorded here. So I find it fascinating, the sound altogether. When I said earlier about the difficulty in changing a skeptic's mind, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's good to be skeptical. I was skeptical back then about stuff, and I challenged and questioned everything. I can't prove indefinitely to you that that sound happened. You are going to say someone did it. It was edited in post-production. I wouldn't blame you for saying any of that. But all I can say is that the voice was real.
Lynn is communicating with Thomas and I'm speaking to him. I've had a conversation. We're talking about Danity Hall now, which is up the road, which we'll take you to later. I'm asking him questions about how it led up to his death. All right. Thomas, on the morning you spent in the Busby Stoop before you met your end, did you sit in your chair? Were you in your chair?
Yeah, what he's saying is, yes, it was my drinking chair. I drank I sat in my chair and I drank.
Were you led out of your chair that morning?
Yeah.
Did you not want to leave your chair?
No.
It was against your will?
Against my will. I fought.
Did you do anything because you left? Were you being taken out of the pub? Did you say anything? Did you do anything? Did you voice something that the people could hear and you're being led out?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
He didn't. But he's saying, you're talking about the curse on the chair, and he's saying, I didn't curse the chair.
Right.
That's contrary to, he's telling me that's contrary to what is believed.
Yeah.
Okay, he's saying he didn't.
So you didn't mean anyone any harm that morning?
No. He's making me feel like not the individuals that were affected by the chair.
So Thomas, just a challenging question here.
He wanted someone else in the chair.
Hopefully I can ask you this. We are off to the museum today. Would you want us to sit in the chair?
Now you could sit in the chair, but I don't want you to sit in the chair. And he's again saying the chair's up high, so you couldn't sit in it if you wanted to.
Do you feel comfortable with the chair being in the Thirsk Museum?
Yeah.
You want it away from people?
Yeah.
Do you feel, my opinion, Thomas, and I don't know if you agree with me, if that people have tainted their own life while daring each other to sit in the chair?
Possibly. He's not affirming that, and he's not affirming it. There's a he's putting a question mark by that.
So if you didn't curse the chair, what would you think had happened? How did this all come about? Why have people been reported to have died just the afternoon after sitting in the chair? Now, we're here with Lynn and Emma, and Zoe's on camera. Now this is the suspected Busby Chair that was put here in 1978 by a man called Tony Earnshaw, because it was involved in a number of the people that sat in it were involved in a number of accidents, and he felt he didn't want the chair to be in the pub anymore. He didn't like it and he didn't want it around, so no one would harm. Ever since 1978, over 30 years ago, it's been suspended on the wall. and no one's ever sat on it for 30 years. Right, Lynn, have we got Thomas with us?
Yeah.
What's going on then?
Well, my feeling, I want just first of all, I want to just say we're speaking quite quietly because we're conscious that we don't want to disturb the other people that are in the museum. So, and there are people wandering around. First thing I feel about the chair is it doesn't feel like, to me, it doesn't feel like the original chair. I just don't feel that it's old enough, or I'm not saying it wasn't the chair that some of the stories are attached to. I think that's quite possible, but I just don't feel it's the original chair. I also feel that the original chair would have had some damage on the left-hand side. I don't feel it would have looked exactly like that. I just don't think it's the right chair. The first chair that I was shown, when I was shown a chair right at the beginning of the exercise, right yesterday.
If you remember when we were in the light, and we'd just come in 20 minutes into arriving at the Busby Stoop, and Lynn was drawing the imagery, and she wanted to find a chair that was in the room.
Yeah, and I just don't feel that that's the chair. Well, that's not the chair I was shown. So later on, I'm going to draw a picture of the chair that I was shown, or something similar to the chair that I was shown. But as far as the alleged deaths that were connected, I believe some of them may have been connected to that chair. I just don't think
it's sort of self-imposed curse.
Possibly, or I don't believe that the original chair may have been cursed. We'll never know. I don't believe that's the original chair. I believe that's a more recent one. But I do believe it's been involved in, played a part in the history of the chair, and I do believe it's the chair that people sat in and subsequently had problems with. I don't know how many people there were, but I do understand that there were quite a number, and hopefully later on we might be able to link with one or two of them.
Could we try and link with Thomas?
Yeah. Thomas is here.
Okay, can I try and link with him?
Yeah.
Right. Thomas, if you're here with us today and you've come to the museum with us, could you tell us if this chair we're looking at is the chair you used to enjoy a pint on, the chair you used to sit and drink your beer on?
The feeling I'm getting from Thomas is no, that's not the original chair.
Right.
The original chair would need to be older than that chair.
Thomas, could you tell us if this chair did have any involvement in the accidents 4 people came to, including the number of World War II soldiers? Could you tell us if this chair has any relevance to their death? Did they choose their own fate? Does it have any relevance?
They sat in the chair. I believe they sat in the chair, but I don't believe the chair was responsible for their deaths.
Could you ask Thomas if it's a fact or fiction that these people died a little while after sitting in the chair?
No, that's fact. They died after sitting in the chair. I don't feel that... My feeling from Thomas is that the chair was not responsible for their deaths.
Could you also ask Thomas if...
I know that there's a lot of coincidence and a lot of connection with this chair, because Thomas is making me feel that there's a strong connection with the chair, but that because it's not the original chair, I don't believe that it had any power. I just believe that it was it's become part of the story. It's almost become its own history. Does that make sense? It's almost become it's perpetuated the myth in some ways. Do you know what I mean? Everybody that sat in it, not everybody that sat in it, but some of the people that sat in it had a sticky end, and that was blamed on the chair and blamed back onto the original curse. I believe that chair
was this chair brought in soon after?
I think the original chair broke and it was just replaced, and because it was in the same position, it took over the role of the chair in the corner.
Yeah.
I believe it was changed somewhere in the preceding years after Thomas was taken from the Busby Stoop.
Can I ask Thomas another question?
Yeah.
Sorry. Thomas, would you be able to tell us, just personally, something about you? How does all the story make you feel? How does the fact that the chair's in the museum and that everyone goes to the Busby Stoop Inn to find out about the chair story, how does that make you feel?
Well, he makes me actually feel that he's quite proud that that he has the notoriety.
Right.
But he also makes me feel that not all of what is told is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, you know, this is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I don't want to squash anybody's myth or knock down anybody's history, but he makes me feel like not everything we're hearing is absolutely accurate. Just moving the chair. I have to say that if we're not allowed to take this, and I know it's easy for me to say that I would do this, and we're not allowed to take this chair down from the wall. However, if we were allowed, I would be prepared to sit in it. I don't believe that the chair holds any danger for anyone.
Right.
If it did at any time, it certainly doesn't anymore.
Okay.
And my personal belief is that it never did have any power.
Okay.
That's my personal belief, not to be confused with anything else. That's just my personal belief. I believe that there was
Thomas's belief too.
Yeah, I believe Thomas. I believe Thomas is quoted as saying that he basically cursed the chair. My belief, and from my connection with Thomas, is that didn't happen. But the events after his death, connected with the chair, almost created their own myth.
Right.
And I feel like the chair may have been.
Was it earlier? Can I just pick up and say that was it earlier? Thomas did say that he was led out of his chair the morning he was led to his.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
So
his chair was
story started.
His chair. Yeah, his chair stayed there then.
Right, and he was taken out that day. Who was he taken out by? Are we talking?
I don't know, but
authority.
It feels like it, and it feels like more than one person.
The authority.
Yes,
took him out.
yeah. Feels like more than one person, and it feels like he was caught. He was found out somehow. I don't know what the evidence was, whether there was a lot of evidence or not, because he makes me feel that they didn't have much on him really. But it was almost we'd call it circumstantial evidence, but it was the correct evidence.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Mm. These days, perhaps they wouldn't have got a conviction with the evidence that we've got. They got, but they weren't waiting for any more information. Mm-hmm. You know, they took him and they did what they needed to do. They basically took him.
Has Thomas given you any idea of what happened that morning after he was let out from the Busby Stoop?
He's not giving me a strong feeling. I feel like, well, I know that he died, and I know that he died at the hands of others, and I feel that it wasn't a nice death. I feel like he was alive for part of it. It was almost like a torture, but I can't feel exactly what happened to him.
Do you think?
I know that when we were in the house, and there is film of this, I was at the window and I kept saying, I want to go over the road. And I feel like I was watching something over the road. And I know that we've subsequently talked about the fact that he was taken from his house. I feel like he died over the road. And I feel like somebody, and I don't know who, was watching from that window at the time. Yeah. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to watch what was happening. I do feel there's a hanging involved in this, but I don't know whether the hanging belongs to him or whether it's somewhere around him, but I do feel as though I'm constricted in the throat.
Yeah. Do you think it would be worth crossing over to Danity Hall?
Well, we might get something else.
Do you feel that's where Thomas would want us to
possibly,
go for this part
very
of the story?
possibly. I'm just not getting those names through.
But we are quite far out from the Busby now, and this wasn't a venture of Thomas's or the surrounding people, so maybe it's best if we returned to the proper area in which they dwell.
Still want to go back to that over there,
right.
That sun,
yeah.
Because the spirit keep pulling me to the word sun, and it's up there twice. It's F. Dennis and Son on there. It's also on the wicker bag, and I keep flicking between the two of them. So there must be a connection to a sun somewhere along the line,
right.
And it's sun, not S-U-N as in sunshine. Okay.
Alright. So anyway, we're going to, we've now investigated the Busby Chair, and we feel that we, as a team, have got to the root of some of the story of that's our opinion and our take on the story, with obviously the guidance of Thomas. And we feel now we're going to cross over to Danity Hall and see if we can pick up some more close family links.
The documentary's final edit was then kind of shelved. I moved on with other paranormal investigating, but something did stay with me. Something was happening in the ether. I felt I became more confident after that outing. And I remember always thinking about that strong connection I'd felt at the Busby, which I never felt at any other investigation. Other investigations were from a sensible, parapsychological angle, and I felt almost that I was giving in to this sort of, to this belief that in my mind it was made up that Thomas was with me. So I was in a constant battle. Okay, you're meant to be doing parapsychology. Oh yeah, but this weird stuff's happening in your house. All this stuff's changed. And that really became noticeable to me when I was sat in my bedroom in Kettering, and I was sat on my bed and the door creaked. Standard old house, nothing unusual about that whatsoever. But I remember just sort of looking to the door, and I just said, Thomas, if you're there, it's okay, you can come in. And the door swung open. I mean, it didn't creak. Once I said that, the door swung open. It hit the cabinet. And that was really strange, to come from such a place of sensible ideas, sensible research, only interested in actual phenomena that prove something. And then I found myself talking to thin air and doors moving.
Arms, we're next to the main bar area, so I'll just tell you where everyone is. We've got Mandy and Zoe over here. Zoe's doing the historian and timekeeping. We've got Pauline, our lady by the bar here. Then we've got Lynn in the far corner, and we've got our guest Maxine. Okay, so Lynn, have you managed to pick anything up as of yet?
Yeah, a few things since I've been in here. Whole building just sort of cools down. Yeah, because it's an old heating's been on. What that sort of sound as well. Crickets. Another time. Yeah, it's the fridge. Okay. I keep getting loads of names thrown at me, but I've just heard the name Thomas again. Is Thomas here? Yeah. Okay. Well, and then I think that because you have the connection with him, that you need to work with him so because nobody else feels that connection.
As I complete my journey back to Thirsk, I end my adventure at the local Northallerton fireworks display. I feel a sense of unexpected joy that after 17 years, the documentary I'd once set out to make has been made. I feel a strange sense that just possibly I was never destined to release this documentary back then, that instead all of us involved has been in some way used to preserve the Busby story when it needed us most, when the inn had been changed beyond repair. Did the lingering entities of the Busby Stoop foresee the enormous changes to come, shaping and meddling with the flow here on our plane? I don't know. Skeptics, believers, the uncertains, none of those belief systems matter. Fundamentally, I wanted to preserve the inn, how it was back then. As I watch the bonfire burn incandescently, hear the screams from the children on the fairground rides, it occurs to me just how far we as humans have travelled since Thomas's time in 1702. that we seem to be moving further and further away from our traditions, values, and our beliefs in something more beyond the here and now. Maybe Mary Ann still walks the upstairs landing, candlestick in hand, frightened of the malevolent spirit of blackjack. The chain-laden men may still plot and meet to discuss their ghostly endeavours. And is it possible that Daniel Arty still possesses the walls of Danity Hall? Thomas was the bricks and mortar of the Busby Stoop Inn. Does he still reside in an inn he does not recognise? Or has time and change at last laid to rest all the characters of this legendary tale of murder, executions and curses? When I stood again outside the Busby Stoop, it felt like a dead cell. A battery had run dry. All I can wish is that I've done Thomas proud and at last told the Busby truth.